welcome to the show. It's Doug and...
For Towers Films.
And tonight we're going to discuss something that's kind of been an ongoing issue if you've been watching the news. It's the vaccine protocols.
Right.
And how slow we are moving here in Canada in response to, like, the rest of the world. Like, to me, we're not moving fast enough, I think. What do you think? I think we're just kind of, okay, you know, like, that's what it seems like.
Well, I know here a lot of why it's taking so long, it seems, to get vaccinated is because the lack of vaccines that Canada has at the moment. Canada is not like other countries where we don't tend to produce our own vaccines. Here, we order them and it has to be shipped to us. And Canada used to have the ability to create vaccines.
Well,
but
exactly.
with all the healthcare cuts, that kind of isn't the case anymore. So we don't produce our own vaccines here. And actually, from what I understand, people want to blame Trudeau for all this, and I guess partially that's his fault because the Liberals never reinstated the funding to do that.
No.
But it's actually the Conservatives that cut the funding to it in the first place. But I know they actually asked the 4, at least, if not 7, different vaccine makers if they wanted to make some of their vaccines here, and they were all turned down, and that's primarily because we no longer have the facilities able to do it here. And so that's primarily why it's so slow.
And I think when we were coming up, we did produce a lot of things here in Canada.
Yeah.
And I think we need to bring that aspect back here. We need not to be so dependent as we are right now on outside sources. Because now we're twiddling our thumbs. We paid good money.
Well, Canada was some of the first actually to sign contracts to get vaccines here. And we are actually one of the last of the as they want, if you want to say, rich countries in the world to even be receiving our vaccines. And I mean, that's a problem when you're one of the first countries actually to secure them, and you're still twiddling your thumbs almost 4 months later after at least 2 of them were approved here in Canada.
Exactly.
Now, 2 more have been approved here. AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson has just been approved. But we won't even see that till April. It's another month from now. So, I mean, and I know they will, it's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still taking a really long time to even finish our seniors off.
When the end of the, that whole light at the end of the tunnel thing, stop it, because the end of the tunnel keeps getting farther and farther away from us because of the fact that the
light is very small.
It is very small right now
at this point.
Because of the very pedestrian way we are moving with our vaccination protocols. And our news is saying, so many thousands vaccinated. Great.
Well, yeah, fully vaccinated. I think Ontario, not Canada as a whole, Ontario is a little over 270,000 fully vaccinated. That's 2 shots. I mean, that's since December.
And
I mean, it's very slow, but like I said, it's not necessarily because they're twiddling their thumbs. It's because they don't have the actual vaccines on hand to increase it. Now, they're saying AstraZeneca, I believe, and Moderna are both supposed to be shipping about 1 million doses or more now at the end of this month. We're supposed to be getting about 30 million from Johnson & Johnson, but that's not until at least April. I actually don't even know about AstraZeneca, how many we're supposed to be getting, but I mean, it's just, and actually we even heard that I don't know if Canada's actually reached out to the States to share some of their, because they actually make it in-house. Like,
yes.
the States actually makes the vaccines for their own country in their country. So, whereas the rest of the world's from, say, AstraZeneca and Moderna is coming from Europe. So that's where we're getting ours from, is from like Belgium and stuff. So I don't know if they've actually asked the states if they can spare some of the ones that they're making from in their country, but they actually asked the White House staff at one of the press briefings if the states will share any with Canada
and they went,
and
no.
Mexico, and they said no. And that's you kind of understand, because they want to get their own people vaccinated first. I think most countries are going to agree to that.
Of course.
They want to vaccinate their own people first. However, we just recently heard, I think it was this past Friday, another secretary in the States is saying a lot of American tourism is heavily dependent on the Canadians who go there more than almost anybody else in the world. Well, the problem is we can't vaccinate our people. We can't open our borders. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So if you want the borders open, you might want to help out by maybe sharing some of the vaccines with us, considering we actually have helped out the States a lot in a lot of things as well. So, namely 9/11 and Afghanistan, the war with Afghanistan, and a few other things. So
they claim we're their good neighbor to the north
and their best ally.
Well, you know what? You need to treat your good neighbor and
help us out a little bit.
Help us out a little bit. And I'm sorry, in business, you sign a contract on good faith.
You should honor it.
You should honor it.
Yep.
If you're saying, no, we have to do this, we have to hold this back.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're now in breach of that contract.
Well, sure, you could sue them, and actually countries are starting to sue them. Because they're in breach of contract. Now, Europe, the European bloc, has recently just blocked a shipment to Australia of I think it might have been AstraZeneca shipment to Australia, or it might have been Pfizer, to a vaccine to Australia, because they're saying they're also not getting their vaccines. They're actually behind too, and they actually help pay for the development of these vaccines. So, and they are actually guaranteed, I think, about 80 million doses, and they haven't even seen that yet. So, especially Italy and stuff. So they actually blocked, and because believe it or not, it's in their right to do that, because they are the ones who help fund it. So
we put the money in
the first place. So, and they're saying they're not even getting it. So they're saying, why are other countries getting it before we're getting it, and we're the ones who developed it in the first place or helped fund it? So I mean, it really shows you in times of crisis what countries are willing to do and what they're not willing to do.
Exactly. It's been it's like a leaky bucket, and there's not enough fingers to
plug them all. I mean,
plug it.
It's been a very worldwide. I mean, most countries are saying they're behind. I mean, now granted, Israel has almost 90% of their people vaccinated.
See, now that staggers my mind.
Seychelles, I believe, is at almost 100%. So, I mean, what's interesting is, why are they almost completely vaccinated?
And we can't get our stuff together.
And you've got countries like us, which aren't even 10%
Exactly.
done,
See, can you explain this to me? Because I'm confused by this.
But like we had heard with experts, those that are actually further ahead produce the vaccines in their own countries. So
this is true.
Again, it stems back to the fact that they tried to get them to produce them here, and they were turned down. So now we are waiting for shipments to come here.
I think really what our government needs to do, and I'm sure you would agree with this, we need to start bringing production back here to Canada.
Oh, sure, certainly, yeah.
Because heaven forbid if we ever got caught, in a situation like this again, and it would behoove us to have the facilities to be able to take care of our own without being reliant.
It's the same thing with the PPE shortage. We again had to rely on other factories to ship them to us, namely like China and whoever else. I mean, to ship it to us, because we again did not have the ability to manufacture it here, again because of cuts. Now I know a lot of people want to blame the Liberal government for this, and partially, yes, of course, they could have reinstated funding. They've been in power for a while now. They could have reinstated funding to bring manufacturing back here, especially vaccines and of PPE
course.
and whatever else, but they haven't done it. But you can't overlook the fact that it was initially cut by the Conservatives to begin with, and it's been cut even since the Conservatives have been in power, even in Ontario. Like, they've cut a lot. I mean, a lot of people have said the trim and the fat, and you can't overspend, but there has to be a balance. You can't just cut and cut and cut in the same critical areas over and over again
Yes.
and not expect some kind of a problem to arise. And you're seeing that problem now.
Of course.
So, I mean, yes, you can't spend like water, but you can't also cut till there's nothing left.
Yeah.
Because now you're seeing the result of that.
And like you said, this is where we sit today.
Right.
We're literally begging and pleading to...
Well, we've asked India to send us shipments, and they said they would help. I don't know if they have or they're going to. But, I mean, a country like Canada shouldn't actually have to be going around begging for shipments of vaccine when, we should be able to produce it ourselves.
And that I totally agree with. We need to take a good hard look if we ever get to the opposite side of this.
We will eventually.
And to be able to say, okay, we had some successes, but we also had some failures. And this is where we had failures in.
Right.
And how do we change that? And I think that's really what our government needs to do, is look at those failures, look at where we came up short, and say, okay, let's get this into play. Let's get the money into this so we don't get caught again. Because this, where we are now, it's taking far too long to get needles in arms. Like, we're still dealing with our long-term care homes.
And seniors.
I
mean, they just started. I mean, you would think they started vaccinating in December and were still working on seniors in their 80s. So, I mean, at this rate, people in their 20s can expect to get vaccinated maybe in 2023. I mean, it's like... It's ridiculous. I mean, like... I don't know. I mean...
Okay. Devil's advocate. What do you think Canada needs to improve on to change the course of where we're heading with this right now?
Well, we need to get funding back into healthcare.
Okay.
And stop cutting it from the critical areas. Maybe politicians should take pay cuts if you really need to cut the fat, as they say somewhere, and stop giving themselves raises all the time.
True.
We can't. That's something we should talk about too. I mean, we can't give ourselves a raise. We can't vote a raise for ourselves. Why should they be able to? So, I think that they make enough money as it is. So, is return funding back to healthcare, so we can rehire and stop being so understaffed, and bringing production back to Canada. I mean, yes, things may cost more, but at least, it's not going to be faulty for one, and we're not going to be waiting another year before everybody can get vaccinated or get PPE or anything like that. And we're not having to rely so heavily on other countries. For a first world nation and a G8 nation at that, we shouldn't be relying so heavily on other countries to help us out. We should be able to produce our own, which we used to be able to do once upon a time.
And you know what? I totally agree with what you've said. And I think we need to take a harsh line and start saying, okay, enough's enough. Let's get it going. Let's get it done. Because if we don't, we're going to still find ourselves in the same situation.
Of course.
In emergencies, whatever, staffing, blah, 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 down the line. So we need to get back to basics. Let's make it here.
Right.
Let's get it done.
Well, enough with the saying that we need to do this and saying that we need to do it, and actually do it. Instead of, we need this, we need studies, we need this, we need that. Stop studying. You've been studying this forever. Since I was a kid, you've been studying things. Actually make it happen.
Show the country and show the people the answer.
Or do it anyway.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning in Thank you for showing
Thank
up
you for having
today
me.
and talking about this. And we will see you next week, my friends. Have a good
Bye.
night.